Hello chat. Hope everyone's doing great. In today's video, I'm gonna give you 5 tips to do the Abyss better. Any Abyss. Those tips are gonna be applicable for every Abyss you ever do in your entire life until the end of the game. Not guaranteed 36, of course, because it depends on the enemies. It depends of the blessings of the elements and stuff like that, but those gameplay tips are supposed to help you in any situation, okay? Before getting into the actual video, I just want to say that I'm probably live right now as I'm publishing this video on YouTube. So if you want to check the stream out, twitch.tv/Comemos. I'll also be live tomorrow as soon as the Fontaine update drops. 5 AM, I'll be awake. We're going to discover the patch together. I'll do some Line, Yell Impulse. We're going to spend a ton of resin, ton of artifacts in Domain Strongbox. And yeah, I'm going to have some fun stuff happening on the stream. Lots of giveaways. So if you guys want to hang out, I'll be there as soon as the update drops. Please come by and enjoy the video. Bye. I will give you 5 tips to help you in general, okay? It's just like 5 things that you need to keep in mind when you play the game. At least in the Abyss, like in open world, it doesn't matter. But at least in the Abyss, those tips should be helpful. In any situation, any given Abyss, whatever the enemies are. And that will make everything run so much smoother. I'm telling you. Alright, let's get into it. Like the first 2 tips are obvious. But I think not a lot of people do it, actually. I mean, people who try out the game, they probably use these tips. But I think for a lot of people, they go into the game, they go into the fight without doing the proper, like, groundwork. Which is, first, learning the enemy patterns, okay? Learning the enemy patterns, people actually don't really do that much. If they don't look at a guide, they will never learn the enemy patterns by themselves. And I think that's very important. For example, if I go in floor 11, like some people are like, oh my god, I'm missing a star on floor 11-1. And then you enter floor 11-1 and then you panic because you don't know what they're doing. Which character am I going to use? I'm going to use that. Okay, let's do this. Yeah, exactly. See? Someone, Zaper in the chat. I just go in and attack without thinking. A lot of people do that. They enter the run and they're like, okay, oh my god, I need to kill the enemies as fast as I can. Oh my god, it's scary. Please. And then you realize, wait, but they're not attacking the monolith. I can take all my time. We can just relax. I can do my thing, you know. Hello, sir. Take this, take that. And no stress. You don't have to stress. You don't have to rush. At least for the floor 11-1. Like, this is the first example, okay? So here, as you can see, like, no rush. We take our time, we chill. Come to stream, YouTube frogs. True. This chamber is a good example, for example, because, like, if you go on the left, the dudes are not going to be grouped. Like, they're just going to stay like that, and it's fucked. If you go on the right, I don't know if they will group again, but if you go on the right at the start, they're just grouping together, and it's much easier to kill them. So just this is going to make you gain, like, 5-10 seconds. And if you know every pattern of the enemy, 5-10 seconds per wave or per chamber, it's like 10 seconds, 15, 20 seconds extra every run. And like in any chamber, any abyss rotation, it's gonna make you gain a lot of time. Like when you start a chamber, try to see what the enemies are doing before you're like just slapping everything randomly and trying to kill them, because it might make you gain like a lot of time. This one's a good example as well. This Abyss is actually perfect to illustrate that tip. Because look at this guy, for example. You might be like, oh, I need some grouping. But if you position yourself right at the start, the guy will get much closer. Of course, it's better if you have some grouping. But if you don't, it's also very much playable. Like if you go there and you make the guy looks this way, boom, is much closer. The other Eremites, you know they will rush on you, so it makes it much easier to group the enemies. And then you can start attacking. I'm not going to use Kazuha just to show, but Without grouping, it's still not 100% on this one. Like, the other guy is going to be a little bit far away, but it's still doable. You kill the first one, and then you go on the other one, and then it's GG. This boss, for example, like, this boss, if you never... I don't know if it shows somewhere, like, how to remove the invisibility. But if you never, like, try to learn the patterns of this boss, you might just not bring Dendro, not bring Electro, and be like, what the fuck? How do I make him not invisible? I can't see that enemy. What am I doing? So that's why you try like different stuff before you actually try to clear the stuff. Because you actually try to clear the chamber. Because like if you don't, you'll be like, what the fuck am I doing? How do I clear this this thing? Okay, so that was it for the first tip. Don't go blindly in every chamber. Test your teams, test the enemies, check what they do before you actually do the run, so you know what you're supposed to do, you know who you're supposed to focus, and it makes you win like a lot of time in terms of positioning and in terms of focus. All right, but if your account is like still in progress or not like completely finished, or you don't have like a lot of units, you can take like 10-15 minutes at the start of every floor to figure out kind of the enemies, even if you don't get all the stars, and you just do another run where you know exactly what to do, and it makes it much easier. All right, the next tip is also oh, okay, that's shit. All right, tip number 2, chat. Tip number 2. It will sound very obvious, but a lot of people don't do that either, and it's still like, just like the other tip, it's pretty much like groundwork for what you do after during the Abyss. It's knowing your team rotations. People always tell me like, oh, your rotation seems so smooth and stuff when you play the Abyss. And this is because I learned the team rotations before playing the teams. For example, let me show you. I will show you an example. I will take 2 different teams. Like if you just go into, it's just the same, it's pretty much similar to the previous tip. It's like going into a chamber, knowing what you need to do. Okay, so knowing what you need to do regarding what the enemies do, but also regarding what your team does. For example, if I play Child International, which is composed of Bennett, Shangling, Sucrose, what am I supposed to do? Do I just do like Shangling Burst first, then Child Burst, then Sucrose, then Bennett Burst last? Of course not. That's the worst rotation possible. My Bennett Burst didn't boost anyone, and I dealt like literally 20% of the damage I was supposed to deal. On the other hand, if I start the run by waiting for my cooldowns, because Genshin hasn't fixed that after 3 years. Alright, we have to wait for the cooldowns. I moved this side because I know where what the enemies are doing, and then I use my Sucrose to swirl the Pyro from Bennett Burst, and then I boost my Shangling Burst with Bennett Burst, and then I use my Child, and then I use my Child Burst, and then boom, I did 200k damage just like that. And it took me 5 seconds to clear the wave. I mean, not 5 seconds because I waited a little bit, but I literally dealt like 4 times the damage I was doing before by knowing the rotation. And I know it sounds like super obvious, and you're like, okay, but I know I need to know how to play my character. Yes, but not everyone do that. Not everyone does that. Not everyone does that. So make sure you do it, okay? I know it's obvious, but oh my god, 213k. Ow. Oh shit, my Sucrose almost died. No! Oh my god, okay, she's alive. Sheesh, that was good. That was pretty fast. I was Pepega and I was still pretty fast. Freeze team. For freeze team, what if I do Kazuha Burst first? Well, you should never do Kazuha Burst first, okay? Never do that. This is the worst idea ever because you don't swirl anything. When you play Kazuha, for example, you always want to have an element on the enemies before you use your ability. So you swirl the element and you deal more damage. So the way you do it is usually you apply cryo on the enemy, then you use your grouper, and then you use your hydro character, either Mona or Kokomi, and then you can just start dealing damage with the rest of your team. That's how you freeze like most consistently the enemy, pretty much. If we swirl we swirl cryo, and then we apply the skill with Kokomi, everyone's frozen forever. And if I wait and then I use my Kokomi burst, boom, my skill is extended by 7 seconds, I think, or something like that. I think it's 7 seconds, and then it makes the freezing way more consistent. Okay, in my previous Abyss guide, I didn't give that tips because, see, I didn't make enough research, and that's actually really bad for me from my previous guide. But on the second half of 12.1, if you run to the wall, it instantly groups the Helichurls. Everyone does it, so it would make life easier for a lot of people, less pain in general. Yeah, if you go on this one, for example, if you go this way, the Helichurl on the other side will be closer, and then boom, they're close to each other. So if you have trouble grouping them, or you don't have a grouper in your team, just do that, and then it's gonna make him much faster. I gave 2 tips so far. Learning the enemy patterns, very important. Take 10-15 minutes every rotation to learn the patterns. At least at the start on the first rotation, for example. Like, once you know, you don't have to do it every rotation. And learning your team rotations is really important. There's 2 things to do before you even start the actual run of the Abyss. It will make you gain some time 100%. Third tip is also very important, and it's actually very easy to do. Can you guess what's the third gameplay tip for the Abyss? You guys guess it. Gameplay, alright? Just gameplay. I'm not talking about character builds or anything. It's really the way you play the game. Sub to Comemos? True. Subbing to Comemos on twitch.tv? Jollibee, thank you for the 5 gifted. Thank you so much. Here, 5 people better at playing the Abyss. Sheesh. The third tip is gonna be energy, chat. But not just energy, like having energy recharge. It's about funneling energy in your units. And I will show you what I mean by that. Use Fav on everyone. Fav is definitely helpful, but if you don't have enough Favs for everyone, you have other solutions. Alright, how do we funnel energy into our characters, chat? People usually ignore EM and ER, but in Abyss are very important. Yes, they are. I mean, it depends. EM depends on what characters. ER as well, but ER in general, like 90% of the characters in the game need like a decent amount of ER. But if you don't have enough ER, you still have ways to like funnel efficiently your energy, and that will make you win time. Let's say I use my Kazuha burst right from the beginning, and then I use my skill. I got my energy back at 956, okay? At 956, my energy was funneled into my Kazuha. If I restart and I do it the other way around, if I use my skill first and I use my burst right after, I do this and then beam, I can switch straight up. It was just 1 second. It was just 1 second. But if you get 1 second times 5 per every character, that's 5 more seconds per run. 5 more seconds per run for 1 character. 5 more seconds per run for 2 characters. That's 10 more seconds per run. It's instantly you gain like 10 seconds per run. Even if you only optimize the energy funneling for 2 characters. If you just think about that, it's actually insane. It's actually insane. So yeah, there are some characters like Kazuha that when you use their burst, they instantly lose their energy and you can instantly grab particles during your burst animation. And that is something very important you can do on a lot of characters. But some characters do not lose the energy straight away. Instead of losing the energy of using the burst at the start of the animation, they get it at the end of the animation. So, for example, Kaya, you can't funnel energy this way because he loses the energy after using the burst at the end of the animation of the burst, so it doesn't work. Does this work on Xingqiu? Xingqiu is a great example too. I'll show you I'll show you in 1 second. On Xingqiu and Yelan, for example, it works really good. For example, let me show you. Let me show you with Xingqiu first. If I do my skill, I can do my burst straight after, and then I get the energy back from the skill. And just like that, you just won like a whole like 1 second, 1 or 2 seconds of using your skill, of like waiting for the particles to get to you because you funnel the energy during your burst animation. Same for Yelan. If you use your skill first and you use your burst, boom, you get the energy back during your burst animation. And that thing, even if it's half a second, how many times you use your burst during a rotation? You use it like 3-4 times per character. So that's like easily like 10 seconds faster every run. That's literally 10 seconds faster every run just by funneling the energy properly like that. And it adds up. It adds up. And Xiao, on the other hand, if you use like triple skill or double skill, I mean... Okay, double skill and then you burst and then boom! I collected the particles during the animation, the burst animation. As you can see bottom right, you can see that I have my burst, I have some energy back. If you do Eula's skill into burst, I'm pretty sure it works. No, it doesn't. Yeah, on Eula it doesn't work, apparently. Like, you don't funnel the energy during your burst. When your account is shit, the only thing you can improve is your gameplay, so you might as well take those tips. But the other thing as well is switching to your characters to funnel the energy. It is obvious, but like when I do my Kazuha like that, like if I use my Shangling burst and she has no energy, I know my Bennett has a ton of energy. He doesn't need as much energy back, so I use my Bennett skill, and then I switch to Shangling, and then she grabs the particle. Basically, just grabbing the particles depending on who has the lowest energy. I think a lot of people forget to, I mean, not forget, but they don't do it too often, honestly. They don't do it too much. And it also makes it like, makes you save time is the iframes, the invincibility frames with your ults. Sometimes people use their ult like randomly just because it's ready. But if you save your ult for iframes, it can make you win some time actually. So you don't have to dodge, or you don't get staggered or stuff like that. I think iframes are very important and not everyone used them properly. Is there a good chamber to explain iframes though? I mean, to like showcase good iframes. Let's see iframe on this guy, for example. The only situation where iframes are kind of fucked is against the against these wolves. Like, you can iframe their like attack damage, but you can't iframe the corrosion application, which is kind of annoying. Also, one thing you can't iframe is like the debuff applications. Pretty much you can't iframe, like the element application. And yeah, here I can iframe his special attack, and boom, I take 0 damage. And I gain some time because I don't waste the time like dodging and going away or stuff like that. Okay, iframe is really good on this guy, by the way, because like their energy sucking attack, you use your burst and then you dodge the damage and you don't get your energy sucked, which is pretty good. So iframe against these guys, you dodge the debuff and you dodge the damage. Perfection. Use your burst to iframe the energy sucking attack, you're gonna empty your energy anyways. It's true. It is true. But you don't take the damage on top of it, so... Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about iframe, honestly. It's just not using your burst mindlessly and just making sure you keep your burst for like the right moments. Of course, like if you want your rotation to be fast, you need to use your burst like quite like fast and make sure your rotation is on point. But sometimes it's smart to just keep your burst a little bit longer so you can like dodge a very important attack or something like that. Yeah, some bursts are also not important. That's a good point, Lurking. Some bursts like Albedo burst, some bursts in your rotations are just like a DPS loss. For example, like Zhongli burst most of the time, unless your Zhongli is like mega cracked, is like DPS loss. Albedo burst 90% of the time is a DPS loss in Mono Geo. In Mono Geo it deals quite a lot of damage, but still. Who else, for example? Dia's burst is a DPS loss. No. And you can't even iframe with Dia's burst. Like, you can iframe a little bit, but Zhongli, Cookie, Albedo, if they're not built like DPS, the burst is kind of a DPS loss. Okay, chat, last tip, and it's actually a fun one, but I think it's important, and it goes hand in hand with the iframe stuff, is that people dash way too much in the Abyss. Bro, I watch people play the Abyss, and they just dash all the time, and they run out of stamina, and then they just can't move. They just can't move. You have to stop dashing all the time. Dash is dashing, yeah, but like if you dash all the time, you just lose all your stamina, and then you can't dash when it matters. And then you can't dash when it matters. Calling me, see, I'm calling the whole chat out. It's crazy. 3.7 Abyss aware. I mean, yeah, but the previous Abyss would have been a very good place to show that, actually, because against the beasts, you tend to dash a lot, but if you combine iframe plus good positioning, and it combines all the tips I mentioned before. If you combine knowing the enemy pattern plus knowing your rotation plus iframes, then you shouldn't need to dash a lot. But yeah, just people dash a lot, they panic a lot. If you combine the previous tips, it should make you dash less. So yeah, I mean, it goes hand in hand with all the other tips, but I'll just show it right now real quick. But if you do the groundwork of like knowing your rotation, learning the enemy patterns, and using your burst like at the right time, you will have less panic. I promise you, you will not panic as much. Like, you can dash a little bit to reposition yourself, but you can also use your abilities to reposition yourself. I don't know if I have like a character right now. No, I didn't bring a character that can use their abilities to reposition themselves, I think. Some abilities are good to reposition themselves, like Rosaria's skill, Shenhe's skill, stuff like that can be pretty good to reposition yourself. You can use Yai Misko's skill to reposition yourself as well. It's a good one to reposition yourself. I do that a lot with Yai's skill. Ow. Well, that's what happens when you fail an iframe. 5 tips, yet it takes 5 hours to deliver them. It takes 5 hours on the stream, Elemental, but on the YouTube video, it's gonna be like a 10 minutes video or maybe 15 minutes. But I mean, maybe I'll keep the other chips. I have other chips for like builds and stuff, but maybe I'll make another video for this. So yeah, to recap my tips, chat. To recap my tips. Learn the enemy patterns. Learn the enemy's pattern. Check the enemies, check what they do. Do a few runs just to see what they're doing. It's really important. So when you actually clear it, like you're not just unga bunga trying to kill everything randomly, and then you understand what you're supposed to do, where you need to go, okay? Second tip, learn your team rotations. I know these tips like are not like, it's not like big brain or anything. It's nothing crazy, but I feel like people don't do it enough. Learn your team rotations. It seems simple, it seems obvious, but hey, a lot of people just go in, they just slap everything, they just use everything, they're like, oh, I hope they will die, but it doesn't work like that. Also, you can just deal like, you can literally go from like 0 damage to 2 billion damage. Okay, maybe not like this, but like, for example, Child International is the best example of like the difference between a no good rotation and a perfect rotation. The damage from Child International with like bad rotation versus good rotation, it's literally like 4 times the damage, maybe even more, maybe 10 times the damage. I don't know, it's like just crazy. So 1000% DPS increase with one single tip. Learn your characters. Third tip, energy funneling. So we talked about using the skill before the burst. On most character it works, so you can get your energy back during your burst animation. It saves you like 1 second, but if you do it 10 times, it saves you 10 seconds. So it's pretty good. So yeah, 4th tips was iframes, and last tip was dashing. Dashing is mainly the result of all the previous tips, but I think it's still important. And yeah, energy recharge I think is the most underrated stat in the game, especially for new players. They most of the time won't have enough energy. Make sure you get enough energy recharge on your characters. Even if you're losing a lot of crit, energy recharge is probably the most important stats on a lot of characters. And I think that's pretty much it, honestly. If you have high ping, if you have mobile issues, like if you have mobile device, if you're playing on controller, all this is a little bit harder to do, of course, like having the right timings and like switching characters. You'll be slower. Even me, when I play on Asia, I'm slower, but it's really, as long as you keep these in mind, at least it will make it better. And I think that's it, honestly, for the Abyss tips. This was just for gameplay. Maybe I'll talk about like other tips, like more like team building. As I said, like energy recharge is really important. But I think building wise, I mean, building in Genshin, like you can say get more ER, more crit, more stuff. At the end of the day, it's just luck. You gotta get lucky. Unfortunately, it's an RNG game, so I think where you can improve more is always gonna be the gameplay. So that's why I thought it would be important.